Hi, I'm Glenn Rogers, and this is American Perspectives. Today we're going to talk about Robin Hood politics. Now, when I say the word Robin Hood, I'm talking about something different than you're hearing in the news right now about the Wall Street company called Robin Hood and all the things that they're engaging in right now. That's not what I'm getting at here. I'm talking about the Old English legend of Robin Hood. You remember the guy who robbed from the rich to give to the poor. That's a legend that's been around for a long, long time. And many years ago, I started using the idea in my sociology classes to talk about something that I think is an important issue today. And what I'm going to say, and this may sound kind of odd, but what I'm going to say is that the way our tax situation exists here in America, our tax laws, our government is guilty of exactly the same thing that Robin Hood was guilty of. Now, in the legend, he was a hero to the poor people, but the fact is he was just a thief, okay? And he literally stole money from wealthy people to give it to the poor people. Now, if the wealthy people had been good people, and if they were paying attention, they would have been helping the poor people so that somebody like Robin didn't have to come along and rob from them to give the money to the poor. But they weren't good people, they weren't paying attention, and so Robin Hood did what he did. So that's an analogy, that's all it is, it's an analogy, but what I am saying is that our government is guilty of doing something very, very similar, basically robbing from the rich to give to the poor. Now, why would I say that? It's because of the kind of tax system we have. We have a progressive tax system, and what that means is the percentage of income that is taxed progressively goes up as people's income progressively goes up, so that the more you earn, the higher the percentage of income tax you have to pay. Now, a lot of people will tell you that this is fair and right and just because people who earn more ought to pay more. Well, I agree with that. I agree that people who earn more should pay more. But there's a question that has to be considered in all of that. Should they pay a higher amount in taxes, or should they pay a higher percentage of their income in taxes? You see, and I think that's a question that a lot of people are not aware of, and a lot of people don't stop to ask that question. You may be aware of this or not, but there are many people in this country who don't pay any income tax at all. They pay zero tax. And then there are other people who are taxed at 8% or 10% or 15%. Some are taxed at nearly 39%, and that number may go higher now that we have a new president and we're going to have a new tax structure. But the tax percentage that you're taxed at goes up as your income goes up. And what that means is not only are people paying more in taxes, which is understandable because they're making more money, but their income is being taxed at a much higher percentage rate. So some people are paying 8 to 10% of their earned income in taxes, and other people are paying as high as 39%. Well, let me tell you what I think of that. I think that amounts to unequal treatment under the law. You know, the Constitution says that we must have equal treatment under the law. The law can't treat some people this way and then some people another way. That's not right. You can't do that. There must be equal treatment under the law. And yet the tax law is set up in a very specific way so that some people are treated very differently, and the basis for that different treatment is how much money that they earn, what their income is. So if the law requires that some people be taxed at 8% and then others be taxed at 39%, how is that not unequal treatment under the law? Now, some people will say, well, yeah, but, they're rich, and so they have to pay their fair share. President Obama was just wonderful at saying that. He said it so many times I lost count. The rich ought to pay their fair share. Well, I agree, they should. But what is a fair share? Fair, the word fair, suggests justice, something that is equal treatment. And the rich should pay their fair share. But what is their fair share? Is it at a higher percentage rate? Just because they have earned more, they should pay a higher percentage? Well, now what if we did that to women? What if women were taxed at a higher percentage rate than men? People would be up in arms. They'd be, saying sexist, discrimination, and they'd be making all sorts of claims and marching in the streets and demonstrating and everything. And you know what? They'd be right, because that would be unequal treatment under the law. A person can't be charged a higher percentage of tax simply because of their sex. Well, what if we treated black people that way? What if black people were taxed at a higher percentage rate than white people? How long would people sit still for that? Again, there would be charges, there would be lawsuits, people would be claiming discrimination and unequal treatment under the law, and they would be right. That would be unequal treatment, and it would be the wrong thing for us to do. What if we did that with gay people? What if people who were gay were taxed at a higher percentage rate than straight people? Well, again, there'd be lawsuits all over the place. You see, no one would tolerate that. It would be discrimination. Well, how is it not discrimination when we set apart one group of people and say, you have to pay a higher percentage than all these other people? How is that not discrimination? And what is that discrimination based on? Not their sex or their sexual orientation or their race, but simply upon their class, upon how much income they earned. And that's the basis of their discrimination. That's unequal treatment under the law. See, that's all that is. And I'm not sure that even a really smart lawyer could get out from underneath that one. That's unequal treatment under the law. And yet we say, well, yeah, but if you're wealthy, paying a higher percentage rate is not a problem. That's the way it should be. Well, I disagree. And now here's the thing. One of the reasons I talk about this and have written about it is because I believe we should have a fair and just society. It's not because I'm wealthy and I don't like paying more tax. Okay, that's not the case at all. I'm a retired college professor. I don't have any money. Okay, I'm not a wealthy person complaining, well, my tax bill is too high. I don't want to pay these taxes. I don't pay any more taxes probably than you do. Okay, if truth be told, I don't pay that much in income tax. But there's a group of people out there that are not being treated right, not being treated fairly, not getting equal treatment under the law, and I think that's terrible. And so I'm talking about it, and I've written about it. Well, what should we do about it? If we can finally acknowledge that unequal treatment in regards to taxation is wrong, what can we do about it? Well, one possible answer would be to have a flat tax that charges a given percentage for all people. Okay? Now, this is not a new idea. People have been talking about a flat tax for a long, long time. I didn't come up with it or anything. I'm just borrowing the idea to say, here's one way to deal with a problem that needs to be dealt with. So let's use an example of where we might say 10% would be the flat tax that people would pay. Now, I'm choosing 10% simply because it's easy to do the math, 10%. That's easy to work with. Many people have said over the years, well, 10% wouldn't generate enough income to pay all of America's bills, so, okay, well, so maybe it needs to be 11 or 12, whatever, but we're going to use 10% of our example. So let's say that somebody, after whatever deductions you're going to allow, after somebody meets the basic threshold, they're above the poverty line and they're making this much money. Let's say that their income is $25,000. Okay, well, 10% of that would be $2,500 in tax. Okay, well, what about the person who's making considerably more than that? Let's say there's somebody making $100,000 a year. What would their tax liability be? $10,000. What about a guy earning $1 million a year? What would his tax liability be? Well, it would be $100,000. You see, if you go with it like that, then those who earn more are paying more. You see that? In the example, the three examples, from $25,000 income, $2,500 of tax liability. $100,000 of income, $10,000 in tax liability. If you earn $1 million, you owe $100,000 in taxes. Okay? So people who earn more are paying more. But the thing is, they're all paying the same percentage. Everybody's being treated equally under the law. And that's what I'm trying to get at. We need to have equal treatment under the law as it relates to income taxes in this country, just as we have equal treatment under the law for other areas. All right? But right now, we don't have that. We have unequal treatment under the law. What we're doing, basically, is a form of classism. Okay, now what's classism? Well, if you understand what racism is, then it's not that hard to understand classism. It's just a different ism, right? Classism is when you hate somebody or you discriminate against somebody because they're of a different race than you are. Classism is simply when you hate someone or you discriminate against them because they're of a different class. So whether they're being discriminated against because they're low class or being discriminated against because they're high class, it's all the same. It's classism. You can't treat people differently just because they're of a different class. Classism is just as ugly, just as hateful, and just as wrong as racism. We've got to stop it. It's not right. Now, I want to tell you about one of the books I wrote because it's about this subject. It's called Fixing America's Unfair Tax System. What I've talked about today, basically I've just scratched the surface because I don't have that much time in a video. But if you're interested in this topic, here's a book where you could dig into it in a little more detail. It has a lot of information, a lot of factual data that you might find interesting. So if you want to read this, you can find it at Barnes & Noble or on Amazon, either as a paperback book or as an ebook, and that'll give you something to work with on this topic of unfair taxation. Well, as always, if you like what you heard today, hit the thumbs up button down below. Maybe hit the subscribe button and the notification button so you'll be notified when we release more videos. And there's also a place for you to give some comments, and we'd like to get some comments and know what you're thinking. Doesn't have to be a lot, but just something simple would be very helpful to us. But thank you for watching today, and we hope you'll watch again. Thank you. Have a good day.